From the Ghost Tactical Production Studio, welcome to Tactical Tuesday, streaming live on YouTube and simulcasting as always on GunChannels.com. To check out our entire lineup of videos, podcasts, and live shows, please visit our website, www.ghosttacticalproductions.com. What is going on, my Ghost Squad? Welcome to Tactical Tuesday. Today is Tuesday, May 14th, 2019. We are live, as always, over on YouTube and simulcasting, as always, over on GunChannels.com. If you haven't figured out what GunChannels.com is by now, I don't know if I can help you. I'm going to go ahead and put the link out there, and maybe you can crawl out from the cave and come join us. It is a great pro two-way pro-gun community started by G-Webs almost 6 years ago, where you can come over if you're new to guns. It's a great place to kind of ask some questions, and there's always wonderful people there to help you out. There's a 24-hour lobby chat that you can jump in. If you're interested in going live, Gun Channels, the lobby chats are a great way to kind of cut your teeth and figure out what it's like to be behind the camera in a live stream situation. So come on over. The water's warm. We won't bite, and we welcome everybody to GunChannels.com. So thanks again for G for starting that up. We've got a great show tonight. We're going to talk with a special guest, Yehuda Remer. You guys might know him on social media as a Pew Pew Jew. He's a two-way activist. He's an author and an all-around awesome guy. We're going to get to him in just a second, but let's say hello to everybody out there on the Gun Channel side. We got David Bowling, Pete Ortega, and DTP. On the YouTube side, guys, we can't see you if you don't mention and say hello in the chat. So go ahead and say hello. We'll say hello to everybody that's out there so far. We've got Gun Loving Grandpas out there, Off the X, Guitar Man Pete, Jim Burgess is out there, Snob's Wife, D Temps out there, Andrew Faulkner. Let's see here. Let's go down through here. Who else is out there? We got a bunch of people out there. Gun Cleaners. What's up, Rod? Gun Cleaners is out there. You got Revolutionary Hippies. I love the name. Revolutionary Hippies. Right on. Travis P11 says, what's up? You got Johnny Sprague's out there. So like I said, guys, if you're out there live and you have questions, please tag one of us in the panel, myself or Yehuda or Clovertac, and ask your questions. We'll get them answered. If you want to email them to us, email them to live@ghosttactical.us, or you can text them to 530-364-4678. There's a lot of people out there that want to say hello to Yehuda, but before we bring him in, we'll bring in our first panelists from Texas. Actually, they're both from Texas tonight. I'm from Texas. I don't live there anymore, but so this is a Texas theme-based thing we're going to do right now, but we have the Tactical Leprechaun, and once again, we gave him the wrong link, the wrong date, wrong time, but he still shows up. What's up, Clover? How you doing, buddy?
Good to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. And our special guest tonight is, like I said, he's a wonderful human being, two-way activist, author, just an awesome guy. We got Yehuda Remer, the Pew Pew Jew. Guys, if you aren't aware, you need to go check him out. What's going on, man? Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. What's up?
Not a lot. We're going to put out some links out there in the chat for you guys. If you're not familiar, we'll talk about your different websites and social media presences and all that. But we really want to kind of talk about you and let you kind of have the floor tonight, because you're involved with so many different things. And before we kind of dive into the book and all that, I want to kind of give some people some background information and kind of tell everybody your background and how you got kind of started in the firearms and especially writing books.
Yeah, so crazy story. I'm an Orthodox Jew. I grew up in Los Angeles, and I used to do photography, so by default, you would think I was as left-leaning as they'd come. But I got into politics a little later in life, probably about 12 years ago, and I didn't even get into firearms yet. I didn't know anything about the Constitution. I didn't know anything about the country, and truthfully, didn't even care. I was a spoiled little boy living in Los Angeles, and it just not my problem. So I didn't really care. That said, at one point when Obama started running for office, little by little, I started, paying attention more to what was going on in the country. And to my knowledge, I thought the only people that owned firearms were police, military, and bad guys. You know, I didn't understand that we as Americans had the ability to own firearms for, I mean, forget the actual reason behind it, but you know, I didn't even think that we can own firearms for just personal defense against a robber. It just never even entered my mind until my buddy took me shooting, and it was like right out of the movie. He takes like this, at least in my mind, I know I'm totally making this up. In my mind, it was like there was like this big leather thing, and he unrolled it, and there's like a shotgun, an AR, like 4 handguns, and we're at an outdoor range, and I'm just like, where do I start? And I kind of got the bug from there. I bought my first gun. It was a Glock 19 Gen 3. And
good choice, by the way.
It's a great, you know what? Gen 4 wasn't out yet, so it was the top of the line Glock at the time, and I love it. I mean, it's right in the safe right by my bed every night. So I was already married with 2 kids out of the house by that time, but my younger brother let slip one night. We were by my parents. He goes, "Hey, Yehuda, when are we going to go shoot your Glock?" And my parents kind of had a freak out attack. They didn't know I owned firearms because I didn't want that Jewish mother guilt hanging over me. And they freaked out. And I started doing research after they, you know, lambasted me. And I was like, where can I educate not just myself, but I want to educate my children. So, you know, of course, everyone's first place they check is the NRA. And I'm not knocking the Eddie Eagle program. It's a great program. But let me rephrase. I'm not knocking the NRA for their Eddie Eagle program. Other things, yes, but not the Eddie Eagle program.
There you go.
Hence the rephrase. And, you know, Eddie Eagle is great, but all it does is talk about what to do if you find a gun somewhere it's not supposed to be. And there's so much more that goes into firearms education and firearm safety. So I went online to Amazon, typed in, you know, children gun safety, and I was blown away that there was not one book on the market really that really pinpointed a gun safety, a gun educational book specifically for kids. And I always enjoyed writing, and I was like, no, I'm going to write it. And I wrote the first draft of the book in about 20 minutes on my iPhone in the Notes app, and I sent it to a buddy in the LAPD who just gave me amazing constructive criticism. I like to call him Officer Dave, and just great constructive criticism on, you know, he explained to me the different lingo you say. He goes, oh, change this word to that word, and, you know, just sharpen the book. And it took me 5 years to get published, but I finally published it about 2.5 years ago. And it has been a hell of a roller coaster since.
I would imagine so. I mean, like you said, we were talking off air that, you know, you've got another book coming out here soon called 27 Words, and we're going to dive into that one. But you've got the 10 Little Liberals, you've got safety on, you get the ABCs of guns. And like you said, there wasn't a whole lot of books on how to introduce and guide the youth. But I think it's interesting that now you're in a position, like you said, that instead of people saying, oh, he's got another book out, now you've got people saying, when's your next book coming out? I know we got a couple of viewers out there on YouTube that said that they're already pre-ordering the new book, which is awesome, because a lot of it is something that this book and is different than the others. And
yes,
like I said, I want to get to that here a little bit. But this one's going to be epic. I mean, this is something that's taking it to a whole new level, which I hope to God that you just explode with this, because I think this is a phenomenal thing. I know you have talked with Clover on his podcast before. Yeah. Clover, I want to bring you in, and you know, do you have anything that you want to bring up or ask before we get going?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to maybe hit on stuff that we didn't talk about or didn't cover before. And back when you say you were outed, your brother kind of outed you there.
Yeah.
Was there? I I mean, did that spread through more of the Jewish community that you hung out with or were involved with, or was that kind of just isolated to your family?
No, I mean, it's interesting. The Jewish community, and anything I say when I talk about the different sects of Judaism, it's not a blanket statement. I just want to lay that on the line, at the beginning. It's not a blanket statement on everyone. But within the Jewish community, you have, let's say, for example, Reformed and conservative Judaism. And by conservative, I don't mean politically. I'm talking about, you have Orthodox, conservative, and Reformed. Reformed and conservative in a lot of cases tend to be more liberal, so they tend to be more anti-gun. Now, I know plenty of non-Orthodox Jews who are very pro-gun, but in general, a lot of them tend to be more anti-gun. Now, in the Orthodox community, you have a lot of people who are very pro-gun, pro-Second Amendment. They just don't want to have anything to do with it. We don't want guns in the home. We don't want our kids dealing with it. I think as oh man, what's his name? Gunsight Academy. Who's the guy who started Gunsight Academy? Jeff Cooper. He coined the phrase hoplophobe or hoplophobia. I mean, a lot of Orthodox Jews are it's just an irrational fear of firearms. Then you have your friends who own the guns, who don't want to become pariahs in the community, and because Jews are very close knit when it comes to like our Sabbath, we always have friends over, a company over, play dates with our kids and stuff like that. So we don't want a lot of them don't want to be, hey, we're not coming to your house because you own guns. And then there's the very few people like me who are just like, I really don't care if you come to my house or not. There's a lot more at stake than your friendship. You want to come over? My guns are locked up. I'll show you where they're locked. I'm responsible. Do what you want, but the country is at war right now for the soul of the country, and I am not giving that up because my gun ownership makes you uncomfortable.
Right. Now, I want to bring up a question. This is a perfect transition here. I've got a question from Travis P11 out in the chat. He said, this is a serious question. Do any synagogues allow concealed carry? He's working hard to get it passed for his own parish. He just wants to know, in your experience about synagogues.
Yeah. Right now, there is a huge push in synagogues across the country. If you have the ability to carry, a lot of the rabbis are saying, not just... A lot of them are getting security, but at the same time, a lot of members of the synagogues do carry. I know personally, I do carry to my synagogue every single. Well, forget that. I carry everywhere I go. So yes, when I go to my synagogue, I'm absolutely strapped, and there are a few other people in my community who also bring their guns to their synagogue. We're in the middle of looking at a company to come out and do a risk assessment and security assessment, and to do a little training on, based on where we all sit, God forbid a shooter comes in. Definitely there's some rabbis who unfortunately will say, we need more gun control and, more guns off the street. But there are people like me out there who are so vocal about Jewish gun ownership. I mean, I know 3 weeks ago I was in Chicago. We went to see my in-laws, and we got there on a Thursday, and we go right to this kosher restaurant. And I'm sitting there, and this guy comes up to me, and I'm not lying. I'm not doing this to toot my own horn, but you'll see my point. This guy comes up to me and goes, "Excuse me, can I ask you a question?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "By any chance, are you the Pew Pew Jew?" And it was like my first real, celebrity sighting. And I'm trying to remain really cool and not totally geek out and give the guy a hug. And he goes, "Oh, I said, yes, I am. Can I help you with something?" He's like, "Oh, my wife over there and I were huge fans of yours, and you inspired us to buy a firearm and learn to use it. And that's my goal. I am there. I am trying very hard to give the voice back to American Jewry that not all Jews are anti-guns. There are some out there who truly believe in the gift of the Second Amendment and the God-given right of self-protection.
Yeah, and we were kind of talking about this pre-chat off the air, but it's so true, and that's what mine and Clover and there's a bunch of us that are out there that are trying to unify and bridge the different sects and the different little cliques of our industry, because I think that if people from the outside look and understand that we're not all hillbilly rednecks, gun-toting, blah blah blah. We are normal, everyday people that have normal jobs that have. But we all have different views on politics. We have different views on religion. We have different views on how to raise our kids and all of that. But ultimately, we can all agree and we all, solidify when it comes to the Second Amendment. And so I think it's awesome that whether or not you wanted to be there or you anticipated being there, the fact that you are put kind of at that forefront for the Jewish community in the firearms industry, I hate to say, but I mean, is that a big burden, or is that how do you feel towards that?
I don't look at it as a burden, because for me, my mindset is, you want to listen to me? Listen to me. You don't want to listen to me? I really don't care. I'm doing it for myself. I'm doing it for people who I can inspire. If what I say offends you, because I'm an Orthodox Jew calling other Jews out for being anti-gun, then be offended. Like, it's not, I'm not losing sleep over it. In Judaism, we have a concept called hishtadlus, and that basically translates to doing your part. Now, I always say, what I mean by that is, you always hear Jews saying, "Oh, never again," right? So it's a big thing that all Jews say. Holocaust should never happen again. And to me, that's lip service. My concept of never again is, never again means nothing if you're not willing to do something about it. Now, I can't control whether a guy comes into my synagogue and shoots up the place. I can't control how I'm going to necessarily, I mean, I guess you could with practice, but I think you'll understand my point. I can't control whether my aim will be true if I have to fire back at a guy. Obviously, the more practice, I'll be better shot. But I can't. There's so many factors that I can't control. Everything is up to God. But what I can tell you is, I am not going to allow me, my family, my friends, and my community to be gunned down like a turkey shoot because they were too scared to or anti-gun in any way. That I will not do. So my never again is me being out there, being vocal about Jewish gun ownership, being vocal. One of the reasons why I push so hard in connecting with so many individuals out there, like you, like Clover, and I mean, like we talked about the FPC and Tim Knight and all these people. I mean, one of my missions is to become probably one of the most well-connected people in the firearms industry. And not necessarily because like, ooh, I'm cool, look at all my friends. It's no, because this can all help advance my agenda of being a vocal Jewish gun owner by bringing Jewish gun ownership into a positive light, and not that we're all anti-gun. But it also happens that I'm sitting here and I'm able to discuss this with you. I'm Jewish. I don't know what your religion is, but again, doesn't make a difference to me. Clover's Irish, so he's crazy. And I mean, we can all sit here and just have a great time discussing topics like this without the fear of anything. If you're pro-gun, you're on our side. If you're anti-gun, you're against us. It's that simple.
Beautifully said. Clover, I'm going to let you come back at him for the Irish comment. Got anything?
No, I'm okay with that. I don't have a problem with it. But I am kind of curious about something with the whole, carrying in synagogues and all of that was, of course, brought up, right, to be able to defend yourself, all of that. That's all cool and smooth, I suppose. And this spills over outside of Judaism. It spills over into other religious sects or whatever as well. But what do you see as far as, I know that there's people out there that from a religious standpoint is they have the the belief of the faith that God will take care of them, and so they don't need that firearm. It's all His will. Blah blah blah. I'm sure you understand where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
What do you see as far as how do the rabbis or more the religious leaders and stuff? Is there a certain way that maybe they try to rationalize that within their particular certain, I guess, certain sects of Judaism? Like you were mentioning, is there a certain way that they try to reconcile those two things?
Yes and no. There's one big rabbi in Israel, for example, who, and well, let me start off by saying it's like I just mentioned before. In Judaism, we have something called hishtadlus, which means doing your part. Now, a guy comes into my synagogue, he starts shooting. I can't control whether his bullets are going to hit me. That's not up to me. That's up to God. If I'm going to go down in a hail of bullets, well, first off, not a bad way to go, but in terms of fighting back, not obviously being gunned down, but not being led to like a sheep to the slaughter, but doing your part. So a lot of rabbis now are beginning to realize that with the uptick of anti-Semitism in America, forget the world, but in America itself, it's something that's necessary. We call it in Hebrew sikana nefashos. It's a danger to your life, and a lot of times, like if you have a danger to your life, you are allowed to break some of the commandments. Like, well, it's not a commandment, but yes, this one is this. I'm sorry, I'm just still woozy from the dentist today.
We should preface this by saying he had a crown put in today, so he might be a little loopy.
Yeah,
right?
A little bit. No, so like the Sabbath, for example, right? We're obviously, I'm not allowed to drive on the Sabbath. I'm not allowed to turn on lights. I'm not allowed to do anything like that. But at the same time, if let's say my wife goes into labor on the Sabbath, I am allowed to jump into my car and drive to the hospital.
Right. Or if there's an accident.
Right. If God forbid there's an accident, right. There are ways to not, I don't want to say get around it, I guess exceptions to the rule. So there are a lot of rabbis now who are realizing that no, this isn't a joke anymore. This is real. It's not. Anti-Semitism is alive and well in America today. And like I said, there was this one rabbi in Israel, a very big rabbi, who said if you are a Jew and you have the ability to carry a firearm, not only do you have an obligation to do so, but even on the Sabbath, you have an obligation to do so. So, you'll have some rabbis who rationalize it, who, again, I really think a majority of it stems from an irrational fear of firearms. But, the Holocaust was only 70 years ago.
Well, and that's interesting that you bring that up, because that's maybe transitions to this and talking about 27 words a little bit. But I don't want to quite get there yet, but we're going to preface that discussion. And we've got a couple more questions I want to get to here in a second. But I do want to bring up, the Jewish community in the Holocaust. No one likes bringing that up. I don't care who you are. No one likes bringing that. It's a terrible time in history. But the Jewish people, especially those in Germany, Austria, Poland, know what it means for a government to disarm the citizens.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, is in the Jewish community, when you start bringing that up, is that part of what the Second Amendment means to you from a personal side? Because your community is touched by what it means when you guys are disarmed. What you've seen, what can happen when that does take place.
Yes, it does. I do take it personal. And the reason is I lost over 30 relatives in the Holocaust. My family could have been significantly bigger, with tons of cousins and just a massive family. And that's something that I will never get. I mean, thank God my family is not crazy. It's not small, but it's not, what it could have been. Again, that's God's call, God's plan. I'm not going to argue with reasons. That's a whole other show we can do. But in terms of being disarmed, like I said, 30 relatives. And my son's middle name, he's 9.5. He's my little wingman, my little shooter. He loves to skeet shooting, AR. And I mean, the kid is obsessed with firearms. It's fantastic. He loves it. and his middle name is Mordechai. And the reason why we named that, he's named after Mordechai Anilevich, who was the leader of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. Now, for personal reasons why I named him after that aside, the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising was the first time in nearly 2,000 years since the Maccabees fought against the Greeks, the first time that there was an actual Jewish so-called army, a band of Jews getting together to fight back. In 2,000 years, Jews were displaced all around the world. There was no resistance to anything. And for me, I mean, that's just an amazing feat. It's just mind-blowing.
Right.
So, I learned from history. Unfortunately, Hitler came into power. It was a little earlier than Hitler, but with the whole gun control starting after Franz Ferdinand and the World War I, and then you had the Versailles Treaty, and Germany wasn't allowed to do a damn thing. But Hitler came into power, made Jews register their guns because they were undesirable, and then confiscated the guns. Then by the time Kristallnacht rolled around in 1938, and countless properties and stores were burnt and destroyed, and synagogues destroyed. Well, yeah, Jews didn't have a chance to defend themselves. And same thing happened in Poland once the Germans got there. And then, I mean, for the Jews of Warsaw to fight back, they had to smuggle guns. They had to, I don't want to use the word murder because it's definitely not murder, but they had to kill German Nazis and steal their Mausers and whatever firearms they were using, their Lugers, and that's how they got their weapons. And they actually lasted. If you look in history, the Jews of Warsaw lasted longer than both the French army and the Polish army did against the Germans, which is crazy.
That's nuts. That is nuts. We've got a viewer out there, Warsaw Patriot.
Yeah.
Polish Jew, and he's a Polish Jew, and he says he had an ancestor who was in the Holocaust. He was at, and I might butcher this, but Auschwitz.
Yeah, Auschwitz.
Auschwitz. Okay.
I think, no offense to Warsaw, I think he butchered the spelling.
Okay, well, yeah, I didn't. I was kind of trying to pronounce how it's spelled. And
it's all good.
Oh, I know. Well, I want to start transitioning into the book side of things. And to start out this whole thing, there was a question by Andrew Faulkner. Said, of all the books, which of his books would be best for a 10-year-old? Or which one of your books would be best for a 10-year-old?
Well, it really depends on what he's looking to do. I mean, if you're looking for history, then my new book coming out in 5 weeks. If he's looking for gun safety and firearms education, then Safety On. Or if he's just looking to teach his 10-year-old ABCs, which I really hope his 10-year-old knows the ABCs by now. I have the ABCs of guns.
Yeah, the best one, and this is just my personal until now. I love Safety On. I think that's a phenomenal. That's they're all important, but that's an incredibly important one that I've read and all that. My kid, I've got one daughter. She's 21, almost 22. Good Lord, she's almost 22. But I want to go in here. I'm gonna bring Clover here in a second. But when you decided to start writing books, you talk about your 9.5-year-old being, your right-hand wingman in the firearms. Did you start writing books because of your kids, or what was their influence on you becoming an author?
So, yeah, I mean, in reality, I did start writing it because I have kids and I wanted to make sure, well, let's just say I want to shut my parents up and teach my kids proper gun safety and firearms education. So my kids were definitely the inspiration to write it. But as a very, very proud capitalist, I realized there is a huge niche missing in the firearms industry. There's nobody. I mean, Julie Golub has a book. I feel her book, I mean, she's great. I really like Julie a lot. I've met her a bunch of times. I feel her book is a little geared more towards the younger crowd versus what my Safety On book is. So, if you would have, let's say, a 4 or 5-year-old, I would say maybe try Julie's book. My book is mainly for like 6 to 10.
Or the ABCs would be a good one, maybe for that age.
Oh, 100%. My 3-year-old walks around singing the ABCs, A's for ammunition, and AR-15.
You can imagine your daughter going to preschool or kindergarten doing that. They learn the ABCs.
Are you kidding me?
Love to see that.
You have to see my 9-year-old, right? He, in his technology class in school, thank God the teachers know what I do for a living, because right now they're supposed to be doing like a fun presentation, like a slideshow, like a kind of a PowerPoint thing. And my kid, the first thing on big screen says, "Guns are cool. I love guns." And then his next slide is, "This is an AR-15. AR-15s are the coolest gun. This is an AK-47. Russians use this gun." And like, here's a 9-year-old, and like, the principal's not calling me saying, "We need to have a talk about your child." But yeah, if he's looking for firearms education, then I would definitely say, Safety On is really the best book on the market for that. But if he's looking, like we'll talk about in a minute, if he's looking about the history of the Second Amendment or more of a breakdown of the Second Amendment, I would say hold off, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, and the book should be out soon.
Yeah, before we start talking about 27 words, and there was a question out there, what's your new book? And it's called 27 Words, and we'll talk about the significance of that, because a lot of people in the gun community might not understand what the significance of that is. But before we do that, Clover, I want to bring you in. Do you have anything you want to add or ask real quick?
I don't until we get to 27 words. No, I'm good.
Well, we're getting ready to transition to that. So the next book is going to be released in the next month and a half. Your goal is to have it out mid-June, prior to 4th of July.
Yes.
I've been privy to looking at a few of the pages and all that. The illustration is beautiful. It's beautifully written. It's going to be amazing. But 27 words. And for those of you out there that don't understand the significance of this, that's how many words are in the Second Amendment. And so this is going to transition from gun safety, gun history, gun knowledge for kids. And this is going to transition to a whole new topic. So I want to bring you in real quick and kind of explain one. I'm famous for asking multiple questions in one. So I'm going to start out with the first one saying, why did you decide to write this? And how did you come up with the concept of trying to transition kids to the history of the Second Amendment?
So, I mean, that's a very simple answer. One thing I've noticed since being in the firearms industry for the last 2.5-ish years is there's a huge push with, we need to teach our kids gun safety. We need to teach our kids, how to strip down the guns and clean them and educate them on all aspects of firearms and components of firearms and stuff like that. And then it dawned on me after I actually became a author and I wrote my first couple books on firearms. I was like, I understand all that, but shouldn't we be teaching kids, especially when you're constantly hearing in the news how, our children's education are under attack from, Democratic teachers, liberal teachers who are rewriting history? Don't we need to teach our kids why we do all of that? Why we teach them firearms? Why we teach them? I posed that question. I know we talked about this. I posed that question on my Instagram live last week, and everyone's reaction was, well, because I'm not always going to be there to protect my kids, and gun safe. Gun safe. That's why we have the Second Amendment, because of gun safety, because of a tyrannical government. And I was like, no, you guys are missing the whole point of why we teach our kids. We teach our kids firearms education and firearm safety because of the Second Amendment. Literally, 27 words is what separates us from free people versus tyranny. 27 simple words. And if kids do not understand that, then all of the education you are teaching them right now, all of the firearms knowledge that you're teaching them is pointless, because they will not appreciate what it would be like without it. And it boggles the mind that literally there's 27 words that separates us from like I said, free men and tyranny.
Well, and that's something that we talk about off air, but we all in this community understand that the Second Amendment, and Clover and I have had this discussion in private conversations a ton of times, the significance. And most people don't realize that most of the people that wrote the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights, our forefathers, most of them were in their 20s and early 30s.
Yes.
Now, yes, you had Ben Franklin, who was older, but most of these guys, they're revolutionary in thinking and understanding. These guys are 20, 30 years old, and they literally changed the world.
Yep.
Yes, the Magna Carta, there's all these documents that are great, but the Bill of Rights changed the world because it gave the power back to the people. And that had never really been done before in politics. And
right.
So I think it's wonderful to not just talk about safety and education and history, but now let's take that next step and to explain to our kids why we're passionate about guns. It's not because we like to just go out and shoot guns. It's because it defines us as a country. So that's awesome. Clover, come on in.
Yeah, what I'm curious about is with your research for this newest book, the 27 Words. Can you maybe give out some of the sources? Kind of tell us, how you went about your research. Was it more contemporary research, or did you go back through a lot of founding documents and writings of that era, looking at more at original intent and original translation?
So I'll be honest with you. This book is very similar to Safety On in terms of it is a book designed as a guide to the Second Amendment. I don't touch on, well, what happens if you put the comma here, or what the militia theory is. My goal of the book was really to just have it as the most simplistic original intent of the founding fathers. So basically what you and I believe in as as we define the Second Amendment to be today, that's kind of the education that you're going to get. It's not an in-depth. I don't like writing in-depth books for kids. There's plenty of stuff like that out there on the market. My goal is to open doors for parents to be able to have simple discussions, just to, I guess, plant the seeds for the kids to start, cultivating in their minds what the Second Amendment is. So, I definitely did do research. I definitely, looked at what the original intent of the founding fathers was, but it wasn't necessarily, like I said, I'm not. There's no bibliography of where I got my facts from, or it. I mean, I know Ghost saw it, so it's just a very simple book. When we talk about bear arms, what does that mean? Because bear is spelled the same way as the animal, so I don't want kids to get confused. Same thing with militia. What's a militia? What's well regulated mean? And
what did it mean back then?
I'm sorry.
And what did it mean back then versus today? It's two different meanings.
Exactly. So I don't get into the whole nitty gritty of it. I really, most of it is the simplistic thought process of the founding fathers on the Second Amendment.
I've got a great question out there by Georgia Trucker. He said he's got to leave. He's going to be driving tomorrow, so he's going to listen to this. His battery's going dead. But before he leaves, he wanted to ask, what is your kid's favorite book?
So Safety On, I would say my first book, and that's just because they don't have copies yet of the 27 Words. Interestingly, with with Safety On, my kids had that in their possession 2 years before it came out, just because it took me 5 years to get published. I was turned down by over 30 publishing companies, over 30 literary agents. I mean, just nonstop turn down. So I printed out a couple copies for myself, gave them to my kids to start educating them. So that's my kid's favorite book. But my 9-year-old is absolutely obsessed with history, just eats it up. So I'm going to guess that this is going to be his favorite book. But the new one, 27 Words. But for the time being, I would say Safety On is probably their favorite one. I have not let them read 10 Little Liberals yet, because that is not really a children's book. So one day he'll get it. So.
Well, let me ask you this, and this is going to get on the nerdy side. I'm going to take a piece from Clover's nerd chat, but for those people out there that might not understand, including myself, how this works of writing a book, let's not taking writing the book, but once you've completed writing the book, what is the process of finding a publisher, and how long does it usually take from the time you finish writing the book till it is actually released to the public?
Oh God, so that's a great question. Most publishing companies, at least the really important ones out there that really have the financial backing to help you, do not accept unsolicited material, which means you need to first go find an agent. Now, to find an agent in my case is damn near impossible because I wrote a book on firearms and kids in a very pro manner. So you can take somebody, for example, an agent, and I'll just use Ben Shapiro as an example, who I can take Ben Shapiro's agent, who clearly has no problem, producing material that is very conservative mindset.
Right.
The problem is you don't have certain agents have their niche. So the guy who does Ben Shapiro's books really doesn't care about doing a kid's book, no matter what the topic is. So you would first have to find the agent. The agent then pitches it on your behalf to an agency. Now, what was in my case with the first book with Safety On, after 4 years of searching for an agent, I finally found one, and she got me a fantastic deal. And this was in April of 2016. After 3 months, so within those 3 months, between April and July, the agency told me like, oh, great, we will get your book out, but it won't be till August of 2017.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, are you out of your mind? Like, no, like, that's crazy. But at this point, for 4 years, I'm searching for a book deal, and I finally get one. I just had to do it.
Had a medicine, yeah.
Yeah, thank God. In July of 2016, they canceled my book deal, and my agent dropped me. And to say that I was depressed is an understatement. I really am. After 4 years of trying desperately to get this out there, it really took a toll on me, having it stripped away from me. I truly did become depressed. And when I was about to throw in the towel, my son, it's hanging right here, that one right here, this frame. At the time he was 6 years old. He came home with a assignment from school titled "When I Am 50," and what he wrote is, "I'm gonna be like my dad. I'm gonna write." And it was that minute that I saw that I decided that I am no longer writing the book for myself. I am no longer writing the book for the world. I am writing the book for my 6-year-old son. And a few months later, I found a book deal with a very small publishing company, and the book got out by January of 2017, 8 months before the big company said they can do it. And I released 4 books in 1 year. Been working on, my 27 words, my joke book, and now I'm going to release 2 more books this year. And I have some very big plans with some very well-known people in the industry collaborating on a couple books. So
awesome. Clover, you have anything you want to bring up or ask?
I think I'm good right now.
Okay. So you talked about the significance of 27 words and the meaning and understanding that most kids are being taught safety and education, which is great. But truly to have them part of the culture and community when they get older, understanding the significance of the Second Amendment. That being said, when you're talking to your kids or you're talking to other kids or whatever, do you feel that they truly will understand, even at maybe 10 years old, the significance, because they're probably told something very much different at school, or even if sometimes they just glaze over the Bill of Rights in school. So, excuse me, do you utilize this book or the Second Amendment to teach other things besides just a Second Amendment? Do you use it as a history lesson outside of guns as well, or what do you do that?
I mean, yes, in a very, again, in a very simplistic way. You know, I kind of bring the concept of bullies into the book, where, you know, England kind of bullied us by giving us all these rules that we have to follow, that the rules were very unfair. Now, it's not, the way I write it is not, you know, oh, if you don't like rules that you think are unfair, you can break the rules. It's more, like I said, bullies making rules, not, you know, a parent making rules. So I definitely get into the idea of, you know, I touch on the tax act, tax stamp act, the Sugar Act. I do touch on certain things from, you know, pre-American Revolution that built up to it. But again, the book is really there not to get an in-depth study of history or the Second Amendment. It's really there for parents to be able to bring up a discussion, start a discussion. You know, I think of it this way: my book opens the door. It's the parents' job to push them through the door, or to guide them through the door is a better way to say it. So, and again, it's the same thing with my safety book. You know, I know if you look at my Amazon, I have 50 reviews on safety on, I think all of them, but one of them was like a 4-star. And I think someone gave me like a 2-star review because when you first open the book, the boy is holding his father's hand on the right side where the firearm is. And the guy said, I clearly don't know what I'm talking about, because tactically no parent would hold their kid's hand on the strong side. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, dude, like you just brought me down from a perfect 5-star rating because you don't see, you saw, this isn't a tactics book.
Right.
This is not a tactical book. And let's be honest, I have 3 kids. If 2 of my kids want to hold my hands, yeah, one of them is going to be on my strong side, on my right side where I keep my firearm. There's nothing practically wrong with that. It's life. You learn to deal with that.
That's right. I go through a lot of training and all that. If I'm walking in a parking lot to Walmart and I'm walking on the right side heading towards the store and the cars are on my left side, I always put my wife and daughter on my right side to get away from the cars in case there's an idiot. I know it sounds weird, but that's my I'm protecting my family that way.
Exactly. So that's my point. It's like, you know, I'm sure there's going to be people out there who are going to nitpick on my book and stuff like that. And it comes with the territory. But again, I'm not there to be teaching an in-depth study of why our founding fathers wrote the Second Amendment. That's not what this book is. And if you're looking for that, I will gladly point you in the direction of some fantastic books. But my book is there for ages 6 to 10 to introduce them the same way we introduce kids that young to firearms. This is why we have firearms, because of the Second Amendment. Okay, Daddy, what's the Second Amendment? It is a way that we can protect ourselves against bad people who want to do us harm.
Yeah. And you said it earlier, this is not to replace the parent in teaching about this. This is to open the door and maybe guide them on how to explain, which I think is great. Now, Clover, you were unmiked a little while ago. Do you have something you want to make a comment on?
Well, the chat out there certainly has been interesting.
Yes, it has.
I can't say that much. So
I'm not even reading the chat right now. I'm kind of seeing bits and pieces.
You probably don't want to right now. It's for a different time and a different thing.
I know. I see a lot of Palestine, Israel stuff. So I'm trying to focus on you and give you clear, concise answers.
I'm sure you have very strong opinions on the chat that is happening, and maybe we can come on and do that on a separate chat.
So I am curious about, because the way that some people say, and even I think even dangerously perceive the Second Amendment a lot of times, is that the Second Amendment gives us a right, and the problem with that is the rights that it's talking about are inalienable rights that's guaranteed to us. The Second Amendment simply tells the government to keep their hands off. It guarantees said inalienable right. So is there? I know you say with the book that you work to.
The baby ATF just broke in and wanted to commandeer the show. My wife grabbed. That's what. Sorry about that. What were you asking?
Oh, you're fine. What I said was, with a lot of people out there, they mistakenly look at the Second Amendment as something that gives us a right, when it guarantees an inalienable right. So is that something that in some way you cover within this book?
100%. I don't remember. I mean, I could have just maybe mentioned it once, but I definitely say that the Second Amendment is a God-given right.
Nice.
Not something that I'm pulling up the book right now. Not something that the government. I think on my page that I talk about shall not be infringed. The last part of the Second Amendment is shall not be infringed. This means that no matter what happens, the Second Amendment cannot be changed, and especially cannot be taken away. The Founding Fathers had a very good reason for putting this as the last line of the Second Amendment. And that's when I go into talk about different reasons about it. But I definitely did talk about, that it is a God-given right. I'm just trying to find the exact place. It's where is it? I know it's somewhere here.
Well, it's just one of the things you hear that from the left side of the political spectrum a lot, where they're like, well, we'll just repeal the Second Amendment. And it's like, well, that doesn't take away the right.
Yeah, for sure.
You're infringing all over it now. So if you were to repeal it, what's the difference? How's that going to make any kind of difference?
Yeah.
Except for at that point, we would not have recourses, obviously, through, Supreme Court and stuff like that.
Oh, here it is. On one page, you see a panel of three different scenes, and it says the ability to defend your right to life, liberty, and happiness was so important.
Nice.
The Founding Fathers only needed to use 27 words to make sure that the Second Amendment was understood. They wanted all Americans to know that self-defense was a God-given right and not something that the government gave to its citizens.
Nice. Amen.
So that is actually the text from one of the page.
Nice.
Hopefully that placates you.
Oh yeah.
Well, we're coming up. I want to kind of give you some time to talk about other projects and talk about your websites and other social media things. If people, and there are people out here that have asked your YouTube channel and all that, we put all that stuff out there for you, but how can they get a hold of you? How can they find you on social media or online or wherever, and talk to them about maybe some projects that are coming up? Okay, so if you want to find me on social media, you can hit me up on Facebook. Please, I'm asking, because anytime I do a podcast, do not friend me on my personal page. I will not accept. I am telling you that straight out to anyone who is out there. I mean, clearly for people who I'm very well acquainted with, I don't have a problem. But
Unfortunately, every time I'm on a podcast, I get like a barrage of "We want to be your friends," and I don't accept people I don't know anymore because of what I do. I have a public page, Yehuda Remer. You see the Pew Pew Jew logo up there. Please, if you want to follow me there, you can. Twitter and Instagram, it's at the Pew Pew Jew. You can see stuff about my books at YehudaRemer.com, and then all my T-shirts and my basically my shop. If you guys want signed copies of a couple of my books that I have up now, you can go to thepewpewjew.com. I got it in terms of projects. So besides this book, I know Ghost, we talked about it for a minute beforehand. In about, I'm hoping for early September, maybe late August, I am releasing with a buddy of mine another podcast. I mean, I know it's your podcast. I'm not trying to take away, but I do have to give him a shout out. Tundra Tactical.
Man,
yeah.
Do what you do. That's not. It doesn't. Hey, we're all on the same team, man. We're all.
No, 100%. Just being respectful. But Tundra and one of his writers, a guy named Eric Jazerski, the two of us, Eric and I, wrote and he just texted me right now. The final count is 107 explosive gun jokes.
Oh, I can't wait for that. That's gonna be great.
That is like I will tell you my favorite joke because I've said it publicly already a bunch of times. It's going to be a lot of dad jokes. All of them are original jokes. Nothing you've seen online. We didn't compile. This was all. I think there's one joke that's not original that I saw on the back of. It was like a meme that someone spray painted on the truck. This is the only one that's not original that we stole. It was what's the difference between a gun and a liberal? Guns only have one trigger. So
Okay.
that was the only one that we actually that we took from somewhere. But like one of my favorite jokes. Like I'll tell you two jokes right now, and then we can do whatever you want. But one of them is why didn't the college grad tell his parents how he paid for money? Why didn't the college grad tell his parents how he paid for school?
I don't know.
He was field stripping for money.
That's good.
So like we have that one, and then what's the difference between a Glock shooter and a 1911 shooter?
I could go on for hours about this one, but go ahead.
About 45 years in the AARP membership. Yeah, we literally, this book, I mean, we don't care who you are. Everyone, I mean, this is the South Park of books, the equal opportunity offenders. We go after 1911 shooter. And look, I carry a Glock 48 with me everywhere I go. We make fun of we make fun of Glock. We make fun of why does FN always have the hottest gun bunnies?
Okay, go ahead.
Because chicks dig scars. I mean, literally, we.
Oh,
yeah. Exactly. Like I said, some are. But
I think they do. I think they do dig scars.
Right. Exactly. So this book is going to be one of these type of books. It's going to be small, like little 5x7 book. It is really going to be fun. A super fun book that you could just keep on your coffee table, or when you get a bunch of people at your man cave, just shooting the crap and all that stuff. You're just going to be sitting there and be like, oh, what's this book? And then you're just going to be sitting there thumbing through it, and a lot of them you're going to have that reaction where you're like, oh my god, I can't believe I just read that. And some of them are going to be like you're going to laugh out loud. So I am super stoked. We actually just today, the illustrator, we're getting the project running. We have a Kickstarter. If anyone, I know, let me see if let me just grab the Kickstarter quickly in case. I think the Kickstarter is lasting for another.
If you want to the side chat, I'll put it out there on the chat.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna drop the link in the chat. I know we're doing. The Kickstarter is running for, I think, another week. I mean, we definitely hit our goal already, but I will be honest, the more money we get, the more stuff we can do with the book. So here's the link to that. If anybody wants to donate, I will definitely gladly take your money. There are sponsorships still available. People want to do that, so yeah, that's going to be a really fun book. I'm really gonna try hard to get that one out by September, just because when I'm walking around SHOT Show in January of 2020, man, if I can give out these joke books in the media room,
oh, that would be awesome.
I mean, just as gifts to like, hey, Ghost, here you go, take a copy, or just give them out to, like, Michael Bain is walking by and say, hey, Michael, here's my new book, like,
yeah.
Just see if I can get a copy to the Man Spot and Matt Best and stuff like that, and it's going to be a very fun book.
Alan Gottlieb, who's been around the Second Amendment forever, just to see his reaction, because he's got the bow tie and he's all that. Having him, that'd be awesome to see something like that as well.
Alan will definitely get a copy, just because I'm very close with Alan and his son Andrew. Alan, the Second Amendment Foundation actually sponsored my ABCs of Guns book, so yeah, so I'm super close with them. So yeah, they're everyone. I mean, luckily this book, the reason why I want more money, besides the $2,000 we already raised, is I want to be able to not dip into my own funds, and obviously have enough to really get the book out there and bring 100 copies to SHOT Show, and just kind of, oh, I recognize you, like, just give them out to some great people. So
yeah. Warsaw Patriot said he's got to run, but he wanted to thank us for introducing him to you, and tell him that well, let me tell you, he says tell him I love him and he's awesome. So I'm going to say that he said to say that, but no, I'm glad that we could, Yehuda's a phenomenal person, and I'm glad that, even if there's one person out there that was introduced to you tonight, that's awesome. Thanks. So congratulations, Warsaw. You're just been introduced to an awesome dude.
Awesome. Yeah, and like I said, my main focus, if people really do want to follow me on Instagram. I do a lot of Instagram.
Yes,
I mean, I know we follow each other, Ghost, so I know, like, you see what I post. I post news stuff, funny memes.
Yeah.
Just I like to stir the pot. So
absolutely. I want to bring in Clover real quick before we sweep the floors. Clover, what do you got? You want to plug anything before we say goodnight?
Yeah, I'll plug on Friday, because this Friday is Liberty Doll, so that's a good one that you don't want to miss.
Nice.
Yeah, you definitely want to check out the podcast with her. Other than that, hey, we do the Nerd Chat on Thursday nights, and we're on pretty much every platform out there. So check out clovertac.com, and yeah, you can find us that way.
Yeah, and that might be something I would love to get you to on, maybe the Nerd Chat on Thursday nights. We talk behind the scenes stuff. He does a great job, Clover does, but maybe for people out there that are interested in writing, but maybe kind of go into depth on how to get a book published, because that's something that I had no idea how to do it.
Well, maybe even the phases of writing a book and some things.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I'll tell you, my Thursday night's free. So
the show starts at 10 Central, so just letting you know.
Yeah, it's late night.
Yeah. I mean, if I would have to cut short, but if it starts at 10, I mean, I understand I have 3 kids that are little, and I'm an old man at age 35 now, because I like to be in bed by like.
You just stop, really. Right. Hey, real quick, Mad Sexy out there wants to know, on the 27 words, do you know how much that's going to retail for?
I'm gonna guess. I haven't done all the math yet. I'm gonna guess it's probably on Amazon going to retail for $14.95, like safety on. And then signed copies will be $24.95 on my website. Just because I think my Herbie Hancock is worth all of like $10.
I think it's worth more than that.
Thank you.
Well, guys, if you're watching live, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're watching a replay or listening on the podcast form over on iHeartRadio or Spotify or iTunes or Stitcher or PodBean or wherever this is, or on Facebook, or wherever this is being put out. If you have any questions for Yehuda or myself or Clover, please use the comment section. We will try to get those answered. And if they are for Yehuda, we will make sure that we get those to him and get those answers for you. But please go check out the pewpewjew.com, YehudaRemer.com, his Instagram, Facebook, all of that, his YouTube channel. He's, like I said, he's a patriot in his own right. He may not want to say he is, but for standing up for a community, and you are kind of at the spotlight of your community, and that's an awesome responsibility, but you do it very well. Thank you so much. Do you have any words that you want to part us with before we hang up?
You know, a lot of people have told me that I have to come up with like a closeout line, and I'm just like, I'm not Edward Murrow here, you know. Just thank you for tuning in, and I don't know, stay frosty, I guess.
Stay frosty. That's awesome. We're gonna leave it at that. That's a great way to stop it right there. But no, thanks again for everybody for watching live and watching and listening and replay. Please go check out clovertac.com and the pewpewjew.com. And obviously, if you like our stuff, go check out ghosttacticalproductions.com. You can find links to all that stuff and all that. So thank you guys for watching and listening. We love you guys. We will see you next Tuesday. Semper Fi.